Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are going to talk about complexity in teams, a scan of expertise in the Complex Adaptive Systems Lab membership. The students' team who conducted this research project are Kyra Keir, Laura Torres, and Laila Zaitoun.
Examples of complex adaptive systems abound in all aspects of daily life, some of the most illustrative of which are found in teamwork. From orchestras to surgical teams to ant colonies, understanding teams as examples of complex adaptive systems enables multidisciplinary inquiries and insights into team functioning.
We collaborated under the supervision of Dr. James Shelley to conduct a literature review on team dynamics from a complexity lens, and we created an article that can serve as a knowledge exchange project on the Complex Adaptive Systems website. There were two primary objectives that we included as part of this project. First, we identified and synthesized interdisciplinary Western-led complexity-informed research on teamwork. Second, we explored Western-led research and established connections with the broader discourse on complex adaptive systems and teamwork dynamics.
As part of this project, we interviewed CAS Lab members to learn more about their research and the conceptual frameworks they use in their work. We also conducted a literature search of recent Western-led and broader research on teams and organized the work into a repository accessible to future CAS Lab members. Prior to the project, Western faculty members from diverse disciplines with a research interest in teams were identified within the network actor map, including Dr. Sarah McLean from the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry, Dr. Sibbald from the Faculty of Health Science, Dr. Woodley from Ivy Business School, Dr. Tremblay from the Faculty of Social Science, Dr. DeSouza from the Don Wright Faculty of Music and the Brain and Mind Institute, and Dr. Sancho from the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry. We'd like to highlight the main findings of our project and provide a brief overview of some of the complexity-informed research on teams by these 6 faculty members in the context of the broader literature. Dr. McLean is an associate professor in the Department of Anatomy and Cell Biology, studying experiential and active learning, and specifically reciprocity in student-community collaborations. In this vein, she has developed several educational research and experiential learning projects. Dr. McLean has expanded experiential learning within the Bachelor of Medical Sciences program, introducing the first community-engaged learning course at the undergraduate level. Dr. McLean's work explores how education technology and instructional strategies can support meaningful experiential learning opportunities for students and faculty alike. One such strategy is the flipped classroom, which encourages team interactions and facilitates independent learning. Dr. McLean's work provides support for educators to develop flipped classroom courses and describes her experiences implementing and designing these courses in higher education. She has evaluated students' views of the instructor's role in the flipped classroom and its applications in a medical science course, finding that students identified collaborative learning as one of the most valuable aspects of a flipped classroom. With her expertise in education technology, experiential learning, and knowledge of different pedagogical theories, Dr. McLean could support the translatability of other CAS Lab researchers' work.
Dr. Hayden Woodley is an associate professor of organizational behavior at Ivy Business School. His research interests include studying emergence in teams, leadership, and team development in the context of human resource management. Some of his related teams research includes understanding the process of emergence and its significance in the context of team-level phenomena. That includes exploring task conflict, relationship conflict, and process conflict, along with the efficiency of a training program and the effective use of conflict in student teams and the emergence of collective efficacy in virtual teams. Dr. Woodley employed latent profile analysis to investigate teams with varying degrees of task conflict, relationship conflict, and process conflict, as well as provide insight into how these variables interact to influence team success. Latent profile analysis tries to identify clusters of individuals based on responses to a series of continuous variables. By using latent profile analysis, Dr. Woodley and colleagues identified 4 distinct conflict profiles and found that team performance can be predicted based on these profiles. For instance, when relationship conflict and process conflict are low, task conflict was shown to be beneficial to team performance. However, as relationship conflict and process conflict increased, teams became increasingly dysfunctional and their performance decreased. The findings of this study support some use of team conflict profiles to inform teamwork dynamics research and highlight their value in developing workplace intervention strategies. It also highlights how conflict can be effectively managed to improve team performance by receiving appropriate training and additional booster sessions. These conceptual frameworks were also found in other disciplines like in studying team dynamics in business management, academia, education, and healthcare.
Dr. Sibbald is an associate professor with appointments in family medicine, the School of Health Studies, and the Schulich Interfaculty Program in Public Health. Her research interests include interdisciplinary health and health systems, interprofessional healthcare teams, implementation science, and knowledge translation, which was the focus of a recent collaboration that critically considered some of the implications of applying complexity and network theory to inform our understanding of knowledge translation processes. Some of our primary research methods include multiple case comparison, mixed methods, and content as well as discourse analysis. Dr. Sibbald has also studied innovative pedagogical strategies for interprofessional teams with an overarching aim to support the development of high-performing teams. Such strategies include team-based learning, which has been widely studied in efforts to improve educational outcomes in diverse settings, including the interprofessional classroom, leading to opportunities to enhance problem-solving skills, extend student knowledge of other professional roles, and develop collaboration skills. In the context of team-based learning, Dr. Sibbald and colleagues suggested a peer evaluation approach to encourage equal contributions and discourage social loafing. Overall, their evaluation method decreased major sources of dissatisfaction and supported the development of cohesive, high-functioning teams. Dr. Sibbald and colleagues have also explored the information sharing process in healthcare teams. Their research used content analysis and social network analysis to understand how research knowledge flowed through interdisciplinary healthcare teams within primary care and its influence on decision-making. In another recent collaboration, Dr. Sibbald adopted a systems approach to create a visual representation of coordinated care systems for patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and heart failure, and developed a healthcare ecosystem map characterizing the Middlesex London Ontario Health Team. Their model helped identify gaps in care and illustrated the need to provide primary care providers and patients with system navigation resources and interdisciplinary team care.
Dr. Paul Tremblay is an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology at Western University. His research interests include studying team dynamics and how people change or remain the same over time in some dimensions of psychology, for example, personality and mental health characteristics. Some of his related teams research includes the use of multilevel modeling in team dynamics research. And multi-level models are statistical models of parameters that vary at more than one level. In other words, it's an approach to measure clustered or grouped data at multiple levels. For example, Dr. Tremblay and Dr. Leen Zarbatani studied bullying at peer cliques using multi-level modeling. The main finding of the study showed that victimization was mitigated over the school year by greater centrality and friendship within the cliques. Also, Dr. Tremblay has supported and supervised several students' projects, including a research project on the potential influences of income and religiosity on life satisfaction at the individual and country level. Some other applications of multi-level modeling in Dr. Tremblay's research area includes looking at variables that influence teams and team members' job performance, for example, members' personality traits, values, goals, and team characteristics, such as team cohesiveness or conflict. He also explored how different factors can affect an outcome at different levels, at the individual and at team levels, in addition to investigating micro, meso, and macro interactions between teammates. And a meso-level analysis normally falls between the micro and macro levels, such as a community or an organization. It helps to reveal connections between the micro and macro levels. Other applications in other disciplines of multi-level modeling were also found in Formula One racing teams, American college football games, healthcare management, and business team management. Dr. Jonathan DeSouza is an associate professor of music theory at Western University. His research interests include using a complex blend of music theory, cognitive science, and philosophy to conduct his research. It also includes employing a complexity lens to look at musical networks. For example, in his work, Orchestra Machines, Old and New, Dr. DeSouza contrasts historical and contemporary musical networks, technical and historical study of instruments with philosophical perspectives to investigate technical aspects of music and their connections with humans. Some of his related teams research includes applying team dynamics to musical ensembles and how to conceptualize musical ensembles as dynamic, fast-changing social networks. It also includes using social network analysis, which is a methodology through which researchers map and measure the relationships and flows of knowledge between two entities. Some of the social network analysis applications in Dr. DeSouza's work includes studying synchronization of choir singing, for example, cardiac, respiratory, vocal, and gestural activity among individual singers in the choir context. It also includes exploring networks of interactions between brains and guitars in a duet, and also exploring classical British composers. For example, composers as soloists in different positions in a network with different levels of innovation and how they interact with each other. Other applications of social network analysis, applications in other disciplines includes looking at sport teams and how interpersonal networks of athletes and coaches interact with each other. Also in healthcare teams and studying the structure of multidisciplinary long-term care teams as they work in real time.
Dr. Chris Sancho is an associate professor in the Department of Surgery, a faculty member for the Institute for Earth and Space Exploration, and a scientist at Western University's Center for Education, Research, and Innovation. Dr. Chris Sancho's work explores how sociobiology theories and the study of collective behavior in social insects help broaden our understanding of how teams in high-stake industries respond to disruptive events and its applications in healthcare teamwork. Her more recent work on this subject focuses on two principles of sociobiology in healthcare teams: communication and collective self-healing. Collective self-healing describes a swarm's capacity to cope with failure and depends on team members' ability to exchange roles or tasks in response to unforeseen changes in the environment. Having interviewed action team members, Dr. Chris Sancho and colleagues identified three facilitators to their self-healing. 1. Doing what's necessary to reach the team's goal. 2. Redistributing leadership roles. And 3. recognizing individual limitations and demonstrating the ability to ask for help, which was the focus of a recent collaboration that explored how interprofessional surgical team members engage in helping behaviors. The other principle of sociobiology that Dr. Sancho explores is trace-based communication, which is nonverbal communication commonly used by ants or other social insects that relies on objects to modify the work environment and prompt team members to adopt a particular behavior. Dr. Sancho's research team interviewed interdisciplinary clinicians to document how trace-based communication, an underexplored type of nonverbal communication in medicine, might manifest in the clinical setting. Their research found that teams do indeed use objects to communicate with one another to increase efficiency, prevent mistakes, and even save face. For instance, participants described how purple butterfly could act as a successful trace commonly used in neonatology units to prompt healthcare team members to be sensitive in the face of recent loss. Dr. Sancho's team is currently working on understanding diverse forms of nonverbal communication among surgeons and its implications in high-stakes situations in the operating room where communication might be hindered. Dr. Sancho's work has incorporated sociobiology and complexity theories to provide insights into the ways medical educators and researchers understand the adaptation of healthcare teams to constantly changing work environments. Finally, we'd like to conclude this presentation by showing a brief video to visualize a fascinating example from nature of the interactions among members of a flight of dunlins.
Flocking behavior in shorebirds is one of the most beautiful ballets in nature. Technically, it is just each bird following a few basic rules. 1. Steer to avoid crowding local flock mates. 2. Steer towards the average heading of local flock mates. 3. Steer towards the average position of local flock mates. This behavior is very important for survival birds such as dunlin. There is no leader, no overall control. The behavior belongs to the group. A dive-bombing falcon can't focus on an individual within a flock, and the falcon risks injury due to collision. Its best chance for a meal is to find a laggard or separate an individual from the flock. In this video, from the second dive of the peregrine to the final landing of the dunlin was one continual shot. Let the dance begin.
To learn more about this research, we invite you yet to review our article and provide any feedback or insights you might have on the Complex Adaptive Systems website. We'd like to thank Dr. James Shelley for his support and feedback throughout the project, the faculty members for their time and for sharing their expertise, and the students team who conducted this research project, Kyra Keir, Laura Torres, and Laila Zaitoun, and we'd like to thank our audience who are listening to us.